What's up guys, my name is OhDough, hope you're doing great. In this video, I want to describe and explain how the talent tree affects the amps in Escalation. And to get started, I need to go ahead and explain what the amps are. So in Escalation, after you kill a behemoth, you will go to a lodestone, I believe, and the Aether will crack it open and you can pick an amp. Now, when you're first starting out, you can only pick between 3 amps at a time. Once you get 15 talent points though, you can choose between 4 amps at a time. And as you escalate, the amps are going to be your best friend. They give you more damage in some cases, more survivability, and just more utility. So they're very helpful and you want to choose the best amps you can, which I'll be describing which amps I think are the best in this video. But let's go ahead and discuss the talent tree and what that means first. So from the first look of it, the talent tree might seem like these are effects you get just off the bat and innately, but that's not the case. The talent tree instead works in 2 ways. The first way is you can spend talent points to increase the effectiveness of certain amps once you unlock the lodestone and choose between the random amps you get to choose from. The second function of the talent tree is where you get bonuses based on how many talent points you've actually earned. And I believe the intervals are based on the 1st, 5th, 10th, 15th, 20th, and the 25th talent point you earn. So the first bonus will be Power Boost 1, increases damage dealt and reduces damage received for each amp active on you. The second bonus is getting 5 bonus shock orbs in patrol chests. This might not seem like a big deal, but it is very helpful because the Malkurian weapons are shock weapons. And there's a video I have on this explaining what legendary weapons are, or there'll be one made. So the main thing here is that you need a lot of shock orbs to upgrade it. And the way this is worded, I'd assume you get 5 extra shock orbs for doing any patrol. That's sort of what I'm assuming here. If that's not true, then it's still helpful, but just not as helpful. Anyway, the next bonus will be at 10 talent points, and this is a Power Boost 2. Increases damage dealt and reduces damage received for each amp active on you. It's the same thing as the first. And the next thing is the extra amp option. This is at 15 talent points, and this grants access to a 4th amp option during lightning escalations. So this is very, very helpful because it gives you extra choices when you unlock the lodestones and you choose your amps to help you on your journey to the top of Escalation. Now, the second to last option, or the second to last bonus, is Power Boost 3. Increases damage dealt, reduces damage received. It's the same thing as before. And the last thing is Lightning Escalation Cosmetics. Reach maximum level to earn Elite Armor Cosmetics and more. So this gives you the Malevolent Vision, Malevolent Heart, Malevolent Wings, Reach, Glare, Flagstaff. It just makes all the armor you received look cooler, and it's pretty freaking nice. It sort of gives you the chance to forge your legend, and that's something that I'm always happy to see being furthered in Dauntless and being improved upon, and this is a clear example of that happening. You get to look cooler for playing the game and doing well in it and just being a part of the game. And it's not just like, oh, I bought a Hunt Pass, look at my cool armor, which I like Hunt Pass armor, but this is more meaningful to me, and I'm really happy to see it happen. Anyway, moving forward, there is one last thing that does happen, but it's not really associated with your talents or your amp points, and this is your lantern power and resist increasing. So you can track this by seeing a little number in this glowy lantern thingy mabobber, and mine's plus 34. That means that I get an extra 34 resistance for my armor and an extra 34 power for my weapon, and it triples when you're in an escalation. And I believe the max cap for this will be 50. So you can just track your progress there, and it's nice to see. Now, the XP you get for your talent points is gotten from the lodestones as well. When you press E or you hold the interact button on the lodestones during escalation after killing a behemoth, you get XP for this. I'm gonna go ahead and check what it's called real quick because I kind of forgot. All right, so I'm back, and this is called Charged Aether. You get Charged Aether. This gives you your XP towards your next talent points, and it also gives you extra power resist for your lantern. And this is gotten from the lodestones during escalation. After you kill behemoth, go to lodestone, and it's also sometimes received from breaking parts on behemoths. And just for some clarity, because I was pretty dumb and I thought that the normal mode would give, just as much charged aether as the hard mode of escalation, because there are 2 different difficulties. That's not the case. The normal mode gives very, 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 very little in comparison to the hard mode of escalation in terms of XP. So keep that in mind. But that doesn't mean that doing the first mode or the easy mode isn't a good idea, because it is. Doing this mode to understand how it works, and when you're starting out to just get some XP under your belt, is a good idea, because this will give you more power and whatnot once you get your amps, and it just makes the whole experience a lot smoother. So that's my explanation for the talent tree, but now it's time to get into the amp upgrades and unlocks. And first and foremost, amp upgrades are upgrading the existing amps you find in Escalation. It's just what you already have, and you can make it more effective when you put talent points into that amp. Now amp unlocks are unlocking a new amp to receive during your climb on Escalation through the behemoths. And these amps are a chance to drop. All of them are RNG. You will come across some more than others, and some are more rare than others. And the talent tree is meant to help you spend talents to either unlock amps or to upgrade them. And you have to spend at least 3 talents in one row to progress to the next row. You can spend more than 3, in which case spending them in the other row will be less. That's my best explanation for that. If it's confusing, I apologize. But to go over the amps, I'm going to do my best to make it as clear as possible because there are like 18 amps, and describing them in detail is going to take a while. So let's get started. The first amp in the first row is going to be an amp upgrade. This is called Squad Goals. You deal 5% damage, and for each other player with Squad Goals, you deal 2.5% damage. So this means that you and your teammates both have to have this amp when you're in Escalation to make it do anything for you. The next amp upgrade is something called Torrent Shield. This is where using your Lantern Hold ability grants 150 health shield to all Slayers for 15 seconds. When you upgrade it all the way, it gives 300 health shield, and this is very strong. It's a nice little buffer. It's very good for survivability. If you can, I suggest getting this because it's just super good to have and it keeps you alive. And the last option in this row is Executioner. And at the base you deal 10% damage for each behemoth below 50% health. And at max upgrade it deals 25% damage for each behemoth below 50% health. And this is really helpful on dual behemoth hunts because there are dual behemoth hunts in Escalation, and you can get one half and the other one half. And in that case, you're doing 50% extra damage if this is at +2. So it's a good amp to take, and in some cases, it's like the best option you have when you're at the lodestone picking out the amp selection. So if I was y'all, I would put 2 in Torrent Shield and either 1 or 2 in Executioner and just move on. And the next row, you have an amp unlock. So this is going to be Duelist Precision, and this is where you steadily gain increased critical strike chance that resets when you quickly strike. This is not that good. It might seem pretty good, and if crits were better, it'd be very helpful. I can see this being useful on Twin Suns, kinda, but even then, I don't find it very good because it only gives you, I believe, 1 crit chance per second or something like that, and the max crit chance you can have is 100 or 100 stacks, and that's a guaranteed crit. So it's just not that good, and I think having amp unlocks actually takes away, it puts the amp into your pool, increasing the amount of amps you can get at a time, reducing your chance to get other amps that might be better. So I would actually suggest not getting amp unlocks that aren't that useful, and in my opinion, I don't find this very useful. So moving to the next amp, you have an amp upgrade, Minder's Gift, and at the base level you get anytime the 8th event is used, you heal 1 additional Slayer for 200 health. And at the max level, you heal all 3 of your other teammates for 200 health. This is super good if you're in a squad. If not, then I wouldn't take it. And I would instead take Breath of Life. This is the next option. And after taking damage, you gain 4% lifesteal for 8 seconds. At the max level, you gain 8% lifesteal for 8 seconds. It's not the best amp in the world, but it's useful if your other options aren't that good either. So in this case, if I'm playing solo, I would put 2 amps into Breath of Life and then move on to the next row. So starting off in this row, you have Paragon's Blessing. Dodging through an attack grants 10% damage to all Slayers for 20 seconds or until you take damage. And at the max rank, this grants 20% damage, and it's pretty useful. It's not my favorite pick all the time, but it is a very solid pick if it's all you really have compared to your other options. The next option is Thrill of the Hunt, and this is very useful if you get it in either the first, and hopefully the first, or in the second round. After that, I would not pick this, but the amp upgrade is where each time a behemoth is defeated, you deal 7.5% damage, and if you upgrade it, you deal 10% damage. So if you get it after the first behemoth you slay, you can have up to 50% extra damage when you fight the last behemoth you're fighting, if you're in the hard escalation mode. So this amp is really good the earlier on you get it. The longer you wait, the less good it is. And it's still decent if you get it after the first or second round, but it's a must pick if you get it like after the first round. That's just how I view it. And the other option you have here is an amp unlock. This is called Bonds of Conflict. For each enraged behemoth, gain 20% critical strike chance, and for each Aether Charge behemoth, gain 50% bonus lantern charge from attacks. I don't think it's that good, so I wouldn't take it because it's an amp unlock, and this again, I think, will put it into your amp a card pool, and it will take up space from other stuff you could possibly get. So I wouldn't really take this, and I would instead just run with amp upgrade for the Thrill of the Hunt and Paragon's Blessing. That's what I would do. In the fourth row and the next row, we have Critical Dominion, which is an amp unlock. And this is where crits against the behemoth build an aura that slowly decays. When fully built, slayers within it gain 25% damage. So for this to even work, you have to have a decent amount of crit chance. Just having discipline or just having cunning isn't going to cut it, and I would only really take this if you have, say, Twin Suns, or if you have another amp that gives you crit chance in some rare fashion. But overall, this is a really good amp to have, an amp unlock to have, if you have the crit chance to make it work properly, which I would say is somewhere around 25% to, to anything higher than that. So if you have like Warpike using Wellspring, this would be a really good amp to take. If you don't, I might not take it. The next option in this row is something called Virulent Impact. I believe I said that right. It's a weird word, so I'm not sure. And this is another amp unlock, and after you critically strike, deal 75% of the crit's damage to all behemoths. And I do think that also affects the first behemoth you're actually critting. So if there's just one behemoth, I think it still works there, I think. And it looks really freaking cool. It's like a bunch of almost translucent blades hitting a behemoth, and it's a really good amp. I like it a lot, and just for the visual alone, I think it's really cool and I would take it. But I think it's also really, really effective, especially if you're using Twin Suns. It's a very good amp to have. And then the last option in this row is something called, it's a multi-amp upgrade, and this upgrades all Malkarian Spite amps. It increases the duration of Malkarian Spite to 15 seconds. That's the first, that's the basic upgrade. And then the max upgrade is 20 seconds. So this is increasing the duration of some of the amps that give you increased crit chance and move speed if you use your Lantern Tap or your Lantern Hold. That's like what I can really think of. And also dodging attacks. So this would make that last longer. And it's pretty good. I think that I would instead go with the Virulent Impact and the Critical Dominion and put one in multi-amp upgrade for the Malkarian Spite. And in the second to last row, we are almost done. We have the first amp option, which is a multi-amp unlock. This unlocks Eidolon amps. There are 4 Eidolon amps, and they're not very good. I'll be completely honest, these are not good options. And to tell you what they do, and to show you what they do, which is not that impressive, you gain an Eidolon that periodically deals 250 damage to nearby enemies. Dodging through an attack doubles all Eidolon attack speed for 15 seconds. This means you can basically stack them, and other ones trigger on other things, like using a consumable, probably using your Lantern Hold, but overall, not that useful, because the damage they do is very minuscule compared to other amps that give you, I don't know, up to 50% extra damage, 20% crit, all that kind of stuff. It's just, they're much better options, and these are not that reliable. Earlier I saw one attack Skarn when I already killed it. Like I was facing 2 behemoths at the same time, and it attacked Skarn after it already died, so it wasted some damage, and overall, it's just not really necessary. Now, the second option here is another amp unlock called Pack Tactics. This is where, after a behemoth is interrupted, you grant 25% attack speed to all slayers for 15 seconds. Does not stack. This is a pretty good amp if you're playing in a group. If you're playing solo, I just wouldn't take it, because it's not that useful overall. And now the last amp in this row is something called Full Throttle. This is an amp upgrade, and this is where until the next behemoth is defeated, you gain 30% critical strike chance. So what that means is, for the next round you fight, you'll deal 30% more crit chance, but after that round, you'll lose the card, or the amp upgrade in that sense. I wouldn't take it unless you're going into the very last round, and you know that for a fact. So for instance, if you're in normal escalation, there are only 4 total rounds that I'm aware of. In hard escalation, there are going to be 5 total rounds, in which case the 5th round is against Malkarion most of the time. I haven't really fought him otherwise. I haven't fought anything else aside from Malkarion, but I've been told that if you don't get to Malkarion or the 5th round with a certain amount of threat level, you won't fight it. So there's that. But anyway, moving on to the 6th and last row, we have, is this a row or a column? I'm on like the last one, and I'm not sure. I think, are columns vertical or horizontal? I'm gonna Google that real quick. I'm gonna make sure. Alright, so in the last column, we have a amp unlock called Hero's Call. After any Slayer is downed, grant all living Slayers a 200 health shield and 15% movement speed for 12 seconds. It's okay. I would take it if you want to feel like a support player, I guess. If you want to like get that niche feeling of, I'm like the Lucio of Dauntless. I'm dropping the beat after my teammate dies. That's kind of what this is. You're dropping the beat after your teammate dies. So it's you could be that, I guess, and it's kind of nice. And the second option in this column, not row, column, is another amp unlock called Locus of Power. After using your lantern hold, create a power circle that grants 30% damage to a slayer within, a single slayer. Prefers the relic owner. And what that means is if you have this amp, if you're the one that owns it, if you and someone else are in the circle, they will not get the damage increase and only you will. And by the way, the circle is very small and it does not move. So whenever you use your lantern hold to cast, wherever you're standing, there's gonna be a really small circle, probably the width of 2 or 3 slayers, like across or like in circumference. And that's pretty much all you get. It's a lot of damage and it's very good if you get a good window of opportunity. So my suggestion is if you're using this, try not to, if you're in a group, try not to be the person using conduit because you want to save your lantern hold to cast for a good spot and a good position to get the most damage out of it. If you're using conduit, you want to use your hold to cast whenever you can to get that damage, to get that attack speed increase. So that's my suggestion. This is a very good solo amp, and it's even good in groups, but it's just not good for your group, if that makes any sense. Okay, the last option in this column is an amp unlock called Thunderous Mantle. This is probably my favorite amp, not because it's amazing, it's just because it makes the game feel good. Because right now, stamina is a yikes, it needs to be looked at, but it's not, so we have this as a semi-solution, kinda. Anyway, this is where sprinting costs no stamina and builds static charge. At max stacks, your next attack within 3 seconds deals 1000 bonus damage. So the damage is really nice, it looks really cool, and it's just overall an awesome amp, but sprinting not costing stamina is so nice. I can't tell y'all how annoying it is that I'll interrupt a behemoth and then I have to like walk towards it because I'm out of stamina. Like that's not fun. That's not fun at all. So this amp is my saving grace for that kind of like lame feeling of like, oh, I have no stamina. I guess I'll just not play the game for a little bit. So I like it. It's a good amp. I would suggest it. And see what you like or what you don't like. This is a really good amp on Warpack, I would imagine, because you can use the charge and it shouldn't cost stamina, is what I would assume. But that is the end of this video, and I was debating on making it two different videos, and I'll probably actually make different videos talking about amps and like which are best for solo and group, just being more clear, because this video is more or less an overview of the talent system and all that kind of good stuff. And hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully it helped y'all. If it did, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you want to support myself, you can use my Epic Games Supercard code in the Epic Games Store or in the in-game Dauntless store. My credit code is just OhDough. Type that in, costs you nothing extra, supports me a great deal. And thank you all again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.